My fiancée slept with her ex the night before our engagement shoot, so I leaked the photos, called off the wedding, and blocked every mutual friend we had. I used to think I'd found the woman who made every struggle worth it. I'm 30 years old, and I've always been the kind of guy who works quietly in the background. Steady, reliable, not flashy. When I met Ava, it felt like someone had finally noticed me. She was radiant, confident, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone lean in. We met at a friend's wedding 2 years ago. I was the designated driver. She was the bridesmaid who kept stealing glances. When she laughed and said, "You're probably the most grounded guy here," I didn't know that would be the start of my undoing. Things between us moved fast, almost cinematic. Dinners that turned into weekends together, weekends that turned into moving boxes in her apartment. She said she'd never felt so safe with anyone before, and I believed her. My parents adored her. Her friends said I balanced her energy. I thought we were building something real, something meant to last. I even started saving every extra paycheck for the engagement shoot she always dreamed of. Matching outfits, a golden hour sunset, and that perfect shot that tells the world we made it. But love has a way of blinding you to the smallest cracks. Ava's phone was always on silent. She'd say it was because she hated distractions. She started going to the gym late at night, sometimes past midnight, insisting it was the only time she could clear her head. And then there was Ryan, her ex, the one she claimed was just part of her friend group. Every time his name popped up in conversation, she'd roll her eyes and change the subject, calling me paranoid for even asking. I told myself trust meant not questioning her. But even then, something deep inside me whispered that I was trusting the wrong person. Our engagement shoot was set for Sunday morning. A quiet park near the lake. The one she'd said looked like a fairy tale. I'd spent weeks coordinating with the photographer, choosing outfits, even renting a vintage car for that extra touch she'd always dreamed of. It was supposed to be our perfect weekend, the moment I'd finally make official what I already felt every time she smiled at me. But starting Friday night, something about Ava felt off. She was distant, distracted, her laughter just a little too forced. When I asked if everything was okay, she sighed and said, "Just pre-shoot nerves. I don't want to look bloated in those photos." Then she mentioned she was going to spend Saturday night at her friend Mariah's place. "Girls' night," she said. Wine and gossip to calm her nerves before the big day. I remember teasing her, saying, "Don't stay up too late. We've got an early call time." She smiled, kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "You worry too much." That was the last text I got from her that night. "Good night, babe. Can't wait for tomorrow." The next morning, I waited by the park gates with coffee in hand. She showed up 30 minutes late, hair damp like she'd just showered, eyes red but makeup perfect. She looked beautiful, almost too beautiful. When I told her that, she smiled, but there was something behind it. Something tired, something rehearsed. Throughout the shoot, she kept checking her phone, pretending it was for poses. The photographer even joked, "You two look great, but you, Missy, seem glued to that screen." She laughed it off, saying, "Just nervous energy." But when I looked at her through that camera lens, something in me shifted. It wasn't love I saw reflected in her eyes. It was distance, the kind you only notice once you've already lost them. 2 days after the shoot, the photographer emailed us a small preview gallery, soft lighting, golden tones, smiles that looked like they belonged in a magazine. I remember thinking we actually look happy. Ava was at my apartment that evening, sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone while I opened the laptop to view the photos. She barely looked up when I said, "They turned out amazing." Then her phone buzzed, just once. She jumped, face tightening for a second before forcing a laugh. "Spam email," she muttered and walked into the kitchen. That's when I noticed her laptop sitting open on the table. The same one she'd asked me not to touch because it's for work only. I don't know what pushed me to glance at the screen. Maybe instinct. Maybe that quiet voice that had been whispering for months. A message preview flashed in the corner. "Last night was worth it. You looked perfect this morning." Ryan, the air left my chest. My hands trembled as I clicked, half hoping I'd misunderstood. But there it was. A thread of messages that stretched for weeks. Jokes, memories, photos. Her, in the same dress she wore to our engagement shoot, the night before we took those pictures. The timestamps lined up perfectly. In her iCloud, hidden behind folders named Work Projects, were unsent drafts, videos, and a single selfie captioned, "Closure, finally." My heartbeat roared in my ears. My vision blurred. I couldn't even move when she came back into the room, smiling, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "What's wrong?" she asked, seeing my face. I turned the screen toward her. Her eyes widened. Then, for the briefest second, I saw something terrifying. Not guilt, not fear. Relief. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just stared at her, waiting for the lies to start. Ava froze mid-step, eyes flicking between me and the screen. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. Then she whispered, "You weren't supposed to see that." Her words hit harder than the betrayal itself. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "It's not what it looks like." Just pure shock that she'd been caught. I asked quietly, "Was it before or after you smiled for the camera?" Her voice cracked. "It didn't mean anything, I just needed closure." I laughed. That bitter, empty kind of laugh you only hear at the end of something that used to matter. "Closure? You slept with him the night before our engagement shoot." She dropped to her knees, grabbing my arm. "It was a mistake, I swear." I panicked. I needed to see him one last time. "It didn't mean anything." Tears streamed down her face, but they looked rehearsed, like she'd practiced this speech a dozen times. I said nothing. I just stood there, staring at the woman I thought I'd marry, realizing how much of our life had been a performance. She reached for my hand. "Please, we can move past this." "I love you." "I'll block him. I'll change everything." I pulled away. "No, Ava. You don't get to rewrite the ending now." She sobbed harder, begging for forgiveness, swearing she'd do anything to fix it. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I simply walked past her, grabbed a blanket, and lay down on the couch. She stayed on the floor for a while, whispering apologies into the silence. By midnight, I heard her packing. The front door clicked shut around 1 a.m. She thought I'd break by morning. What she didn't know was that I'd already started planning how to make sure her lies never found another audience. That night, I barely slept. The ceiling above me felt like a weight pressing down, every thought circling the same question. How do you destroy someone who built her love on performance? By morning, I already had my answer. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to expose her with words. I just needed to let her own actions tell the story. The next evening, I sat at my computer and opened the engagement photos. They were beautiful, almost disgustingly so. Ava's smile, her laughter, her arms wrapped around me like she'd never known anyone else. Every frame was a lie captured in perfect lighting. Then I paired those photos with the messages I'd found, her texts to Ryan, the timestamps, the "last night was worth it" line. I stitched them together like a gallery, the illusion of love beside the proof of betrayal. I didn't post them publicly. That would have been too easy. Instead, I uploaded them to a private link and sent it to the guest list from our engagement announcement. Close friends, family, her co-workers, even a few people from the bridal party. The subject line read, "The real story behind the perfect couple." Within hours, my phone started buzzing. Not with pity, but with silence. The kind that follows shock. Her best friend unfollowed her. Her boss stopped tagging her in company events. Even her mother texted me, "Is this true?" By nightfall, Ava called. Her voice was frantic, breaking between sobs. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," I said flatly. "I just used your favorite medium, pictures." She screamed that I'd ruined her life, that people were turning on her. But the truth was I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped protecting her mask. And the moment I hung up, I felt something I hadn't in days. Peace. But peace is fragile when you're dealing with someone who's built to manipulate. The next few days felt like living inside an echo. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Not from her, but from people reacting. Mutual friends reached out, half in shock, half in disbelief. "Man, are you okay? Did that really happen?" I didn't answer most of them. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted silence. Ava, on the other hand, went into damage control. She texted me nonstop, long paragraphs of guilt, rage, and desperation. You humiliated me. It was one mistake. You're cruel. Then came the voice notes, her sobbing, saying she'd lost everything. Friends, respect, even her job. Apparently, someone at work forwarded the email to HR, and rumors spread faster than truth ever could. She called one night, screaming through tears. "You ruined my life," I said quietly. "No, Ava. I just showed them who you really are." Her tone changed instantly. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Then the line went dead. A few hours later, her mom called, voice trembling. "Please don't destroy her future." "She made a mistake, but you're better than this." I almost laughed. Better? I'd been better for years. Trusting, patient, loyal. And where did that get me? Cheated on and lied to. Over the next week, I canceled the wedding venue, refunded the catering deposits, and closed our shared account. She'd contributed almost nothing financially, so it wasn't hard. I even called the photographer, thanked him for his work, and told him the wedding was off. He hesitated before saying, "Man, for what it's worth." "You looked genuinely happy in those photos." I smiled bitterly. Yeah, that was the problem. The world she built on performance was collapsing, and for once I didn't lift a finger to save it. But just when I thought the worst was over, I found out there was one truth I still hadn't uncovered, the part that made her betrayal even darker. It was a random Tuesday night when my phone buzzed with a message request. The name stopped me cold. Sophie, Ryan's girlfriend. I hesitated before opening it, half expecting insults or some misguided defense of Ava. But instead, it began with, "You don't know me, but I think we both deserve the truth." Her message was long, screenshots, voice recordings, even photos. Turns out Ava hadn't just cheated. She'd built an entire narrative between two men. To Ryan, she said I was controlling, emotionally cold, and that she felt trapped in a relationship with a man who didn't see her worth. She'd told him our engagement was just a formality, that we were practically over, but she needed time to break things off gracefully. Sophie discovered the affair the same night I did, only her version of events was worse. Ava wasn't trying to get closure. She was trying to replace me. She'd been planning to meet Ryan the morning of our engagement shoot, not to say goodbye, but to convince him to show up at the park and make a statement. Sophie even sent me a voice note of Ava's message to Ryan. "He needs to see that he doesn't own me. Maybe then he'll stop playing hero." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a mistake. It was premeditated humiliation. Sophie apologized through tears, saying she'd broken things off with Ryan and wanted me to know the full story. I thanked her, but I barely remember typing it. My mind was already spiraling. Every laugh, every kiss, every "I love you," replaying with new meaning. Ava didn't just betray me. She used me. That night, I sat alone in the dark, staring at the engagement photos one last time. Her hand rested on my chest in every shot, smiling like a woman in love. But now, all I could see was the knife she'd hidden behind her back. After Sophie's messages, something inside me broke for real. Not the loud kind of break that makes you scream or punch walls, the quiet one that hollows you out from the inside. I stopped eating, stopped answering calls. The apartment felt haunted by her, her perfume on the pillow, her hair tie still hanging from the lamp. Every corner reminded me of how easily she'd lied while saying she loved me. I'd wake up to sunlight creeping through the blinds and just stare at the ceiling, replaying every scene of our relationship like an autopsy. The way she'd trace my jawline and whisper, "You're the only man who truly gets me." The way she'd defend Ryan when I raised an eyebrow. "He's harmless. Don't make it weird." All those nights she came home tired from the gym, smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. My parents invited me over for dinner one night. My mom tried to be gentle, asking, "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" I just smiled weakly. Mom, she never asked for forgiveness. She just wanted control. My dad stayed quiet, but I could see disappointment flicker in his eyes. Not at me, but at how much I'd let her take from me. At work, people whispered. Someone must have shared the story thread, because even when no one said anything directly, I could feel the pity in their glances. That kind of silent judgment burns worse than words. I started drinking at night, just enough to feel numb. I'd sit on the couch scrolling through her old posts, trying to find a clue, a sign I missed. There was none, just carefully curated love, captioned lies, and filtered memories. One night, I caught myself whispering her name to an empty room. That's when I realized this wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was possession. And the only way to get free was to burn every trace of her that still had my name attached. It started small. The first thing I deleted was her number, then the photos, then the playlist we made together, the one she called our soundtrack. Each deletion felt like ripping out a thread she'd wrapped around my chest. But with every file gone, I could breathe a little more. I stopped checking social media completely. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to see what version of the story she was spinning now. Instead, I filled the silence with movement, running, cleaning, fixing old things around the apartment. One night I picked up my camera again. It had been collecting dust since the engagement shoot, but something about holding it felt right. The same tool that captured my humiliation could also capture my healing. I started taking photos at sunrise, empty streets, dew on park benches, the way light breaks through fog. There was something peaceful in those quiet mornings. No drama, no lies, just light and time. The camera forced me to look outward again instead of replaying the past on loop. A few weeks in, my therapist asked, "What's the hardest part for you now?" I said, "Accepting that I wasn't stupid, just loyal to the wrong person." She nodded. "That's not weakness. That's empathy misused." Slowly, I began to build new routines, cooking for one, reading again, even saying yes when co-workers invited me out. I didn't talk about Ava, I didn't have to. They could see the scar in my silence. One morning, I caught my reflection and didn't hate it for the first time in months. The dark circles were fading. My eyes looked alive again. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just healing. I was evolving. But peace doesn't last long when ghosts still whisper through mutual friends. And mine was about to resurface, wearing someone else's ring. It had been 6 months since I'd last seen her face when I got the call. A mutual friend, someone who still followed her, said, "Hey, just a heads up. Ava's engaged again." For a moment, I couldn't even process it. Engaged? To who? He hesitated. "Some guy named Tyler. Met him at a yoga retreat 3 months ago. 3 months. That meant barely weeks after our implosion, she'd already found her next target. I felt that familiar pit of disgust twist in my stomach, not because I wanted her back, but because she was still out there performing, rewriting history. And this time, I was the villain in her script. Apparently, she'd told people I'd been emotionally abusive, that I'd fabricated evidence out of jealousy when she tried to end things peacefully. Her new fiancé had even commented on one of her posts, "She's finally safe with someone who loves her right." I stared at the screen for a long time, pulse steady, no anger, just disbelief at how easily she could spin a lie and smile through it. Then I opened my folder, the one she didn't know existed, and pulled up the metadata from the photos, the original messages, the time-stamped files she'd sent Ryan. I didn't post anything. I didn't call anyone. I just sent a single link to that same mutual friend. The proof. No captions, no context. 2 hours later, he texted back, "Bro, I didn't know. She's telling everyone you made it up." I replied, "Truth doesn't need defending. It just needs patience." After that, I blocked him too. Every mutual contact. Every thread that tied me to that chapter. I didn't want revenge anymore. What I wanted was distance, the kind you can't fake or delete. And for the first time, cutting ties didn't feel like loss. It felt like winning quietly. After the news about her new engagement, something inside me finally went still. Not angry, not sad, just done. I sat down at my desk one night and started cleaning digital ghosts. Every shared folder, every archived message, every email thread labeled Ava. Delete, delete, delete. The cursor blinked over the last photo we ever took together, her head on my shoulder. Sunset behind us, and for a second my hand hesitated. Then I hit remove permanently. I didn't need closure from her. Closure isn't something you get handed. It's something you build piece by piece when you stop chasing what broke you. A week later, she emailed me. The subject line was simple. Can we talk? No message body, no apology, and just that line. I stared at it for a long time. Then I hovered over the 3 dots and clicked block sender. The system asked, "Are you sure you want to block this address?" I whispered, completely. After that, I changed my number, closed my old accounts, and moved across town. My coworkers knew I'd gone through something, but they never asked details, and I was grateful for that. At work, I was just me again. Not the guy from the viral email. Not the fiancé who got cheated on. Just a man quietly building his life back. In the evenings, I took long walks with my camera. Sometimes I'd catch couples laughing together in golden light, and instead of bitterness, I felt nothing, maybe even gratitude. Pain had burned away the illusions, and what remained was clarity. She'd once said, "You'll never erase me." She was wrong. Erasing her wasn't revenge. It was freedom. And with that last thread cut, I finally remembered what peace sounded like. Silence. It's strange how the quiet after chaos feels heavier than the storm itself. Months passed, and my life settled into something unrecognizable, steady, predictable, peaceful. I'd wake up before dawn, make coffee, and watch the sun spill through my kitchen window. No tension, no lies. Just light cutting through the remnants of what used to be. Sometimes I'd catch myself replaying everything. The laughter, the betrayal, the explosion. But it didn't hurt anymore. It felt like a movie I'd already seen too many times. I wasn't the heartbroken man in it anymore. I was the director, the one who finally walked out of the theater and left the credits rolling. I started photographing again, seriously this time. Weddings, portraits, landscapes. Each shot felt like a reclamation of something she'd once tainted. My favorite project became one called Unedited. Real people, real emotions, no filters, no rehearsals. A quiet rebellion against everything Ava ever pretended to be. One evening, while reviewing photos for a client, I found one from our old shoot buried in a backup folder. Her smile, my arm around her. The image was flawless, technically perfect. But it didn't make me ache anymore. It made me smirk. Because now I understood. She'd performed like love was theater, every gesture meant for an audience. But in the end, I was the one who controlled the narrative. In a voiceover I'd never actually record, I imagined myself saying, "She performed," I directed, and in the final act, she destroyed herself trying to control the script. I closed the laptop, turned off the lights, and looked out at the skyline, free, calm, unbroken. The man who once begged for honesty no longer needed it from her. She became a cautionary tale. I became the author of it. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I finally knew what it meant to be untouched by her performance.